It didn't come with a big press conference. No final tour announcement with flashing lights. Instead, it was quiet. A short message. Direct. Simple. And for millions of fans, completely unexpected. Cher, a woman who spent more than 6 decades in the spotlight, finally said she was stepping away. No build-up. No countdown. Just a decision that felt final. People didn't believe it at first. Online, fans started asking the same question over and over again. Is this real? Some thought it was just another break, like she had taken before. Others assumed she would be back in a few months, maybe with a new project, maybe with another reinvention. That's what Cher had always done. But this time felt different. There was something in her tone. Not emotional in an obvious way, but you could feel something underneath it. Like she had already made peace with the decision long before anyone else even knew it was coming. At 79, Cher had nothing left to prove. She had already done everything. Hit songs. Award-winning acting. Decades of staying relevant in an industry that forgets people quickly. She didn't just survive, she stayed at the top longer than almost anyone. So why walk away now? That's the part that caught people off guard. Because this wasn't just about age. It wasn't just about retirement. And it definitely wasn't about fading out quietly. Behind that short goodbye message was a much longer story. One that started far away from fame, in a place where nothing about her future looked guaranteed. To understand why Cher decided to step away at 79, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Cher wasn't born into fame. There was no music industry connection waiting for her. No easy path. She was born Sherilyn Sarkeesian in 1946, in El Centro, a small city, far from the world she would eventually take over. Her early life was unstable from the start. Her mother, Georgia Holt, was talented and ambitious, always chasing opportunities in acting and music. But success didn't come easily. Money was tight, and relationships didn't last long. Cher's father wasn't around in a steady way, and that absence shaped a lot of her early years. The household changed often. New cities, new schools, new stepfathers. Nothing stayed consistent for long. There were times when things got so difficult that Cher had to be placed in an orphanage for a short period. It wasn't something she talked about lightly later in life, but it left a mark. At a young age, she learned that stability wasn't something you could count on. School wasn't easy either. She struggled with dyslexia, though it wasn't fully understood at the time. Teachers often saw her as distracted or not trying hard enough. But the truth was, she processed things differently. Reading was difficult. Traditional learning didn't work for her. Instead of fitting in, she stood out. Oh, different. Confident in a way that didn't match her situation. Other kids noticed, and not always in a kind way. But even then, there was something about her. She had a presence. Even as a child, people could feel it. She didn't blend into the background. She didn't stay quiet just to make others comfortable. At home, things weren't much easier. Her mother's life was unpredictable. There were moments of closeness, but also distance. Georgia Holt was trying to build something for herself, and that often meant moving, starting over, and taking risks that didn't always work out. Cher watched all of it. She saw what it looked like to chase something without guarantees. She saw how hard it was to survive without money, without security. And she learned early that if she wanted a different life, she would have to create it herself. By the time she reached her teenage years, she already felt disconnected from the life around her. School didn't feel like her path. The idea of staying in one place, following a traditional route, didn't make sense to her. She wanted something bigger. Even if she couldn't fully explain what that was yet. She once said she didn't feel smart in school, but she knew she was meant for something else. That belief, even without proof, pushed her forward. At 16, she made a decision that would change everything. She dropped out of school. No safety net. No clear plan. Just a feeling that staying would take her further away from the life she wanted. Leaving school at 16 wasn't a bold, inspiring move at the time. It was risky, uncertain, and for most people around her, it probably didn't look like a smart decision. But for Cher, it felt necessary. She didn't see a future for herself in classrooms or textbooks. She wanted to be part of something bigger, something creative, something that felt alive. So she made another decision. She moved to Los Angeles. At that time, Los Angeles wasn't just a city. It was a possibility, a place where people went when they wanted to become someone else. But arriving there didn't mean instant success. Far from it. She had very little money, no real connections, no guarantee that anything would work out. She took small jobs just to get by. Odd work. Anything that could cover basic needs. Life was unstable, but it was different from before. This time, she was choosing the uncertainty. And then something unexpected happened. She met Sonny Bono. At first, it wasn't a romantic story. It was practical. Sonny was older, already connected to the music world in small ways. He saw something in Cher. Not just her look, but her presence. The same thing people had noticed when she was younger, but now it had direction. He offered her a place to stay. In exchange, she helped around the house. It was a simple arrangement at the beginning, but it didn't stay that way for long. Sonny started introducing her to the music scene. Recording studios, producers, artists. It was a world Cher had never been part of before, but she adjusted quickly. She didn't have formal training, no polished voice lessons, but she had something else, a sound that stood out. Deep, unusual, different from what people expected from female singers at the time. At first, she worked in the background. Backup vocals, small roles in recordings. Nothing that would make her famous yet. But she was learning, watching how songs were made, how artists performed, how the industry worked. And slowly, the dynamic between her and Sonny started to change. They weren't just working together anymore. They became a duo. Not overnight, not with instant success, but the foundation was there. Two people, both trying to find their place, building something together without knowing where it would lead. Cher was still a teenager, figuring things out as she went. But one thing was already clear. She wasn't going back to the life she left behind. Whatever happened next, success or failure, she was going to face it on her own terms. At first, nothing about their music suggested they were about to become famous. They didn't fit the typical image. They weren't polished in the traditional sense. Their sound was different, their look was different, and their dynamic felt unusual. But that difference is exactly what worked. In 1965, everything changed with one song. I Got You Babe. It wasn't just a hit. It was everywhere. The song climbed to the top of the charts and suddenly, Cher and Sonny Bono weren't struggling artists anymore. They were stars. The timing mattered. The 1960s were already shifting. Culture was changing. Young people were looking for something different, something that didn't feel controlled or traditional. Sonny and Cher fit into that moment perfectly. They looked like they didn't care about rules. Long hair, bold outfits, a kind of quiet confidence that didn't need to prove itself. They weren't just making music. They became symbols of a certain kind of freedom. And the success didn't stop with one song. They released more music, went on tours, appeared on television. Everywhere they went, people recognized them. But it was television that pushed them even further. The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour became a major hit. Week after week, millions of people tuned in to watch them. It wasn't just about singing anymore. It was about personality. Cher stood out immediately. Her timing, her expressions, the way she delivered lines without trying too hard. She didn't act like a typical TV star. She didn't soften herself to fit expectations. She was direct, sometimes sarcastic, always in control of how she presented herself. And people loved it. On the outside, everything looked perfect. A successful duo, a popular TV show, a relationship that seemed stable and strong. But behind the scenes, things weren't as simple. The fame was growing fast, and with it, the pressure. And inside that partnership, the balance wasn't equal. From the outside, their relationship looked like a success story. A couple who built everything together. Music, television, fame. But privately, the reality was different. Sonny Bono wasn't just Cher's partner. He controlled almost every part of her career. The contracts, the money, the decisions. Everything went through him. At first, Cher didn't question it. She was young when they met. He had more experience, more knowledge of the industry. It made sense in the beginning to trust him. But as time went on, that control became harder to ignore. She started to feel trapped. Not just professionally but personally. Even though she was the face people recognized, she didn't have full control over her own life. The success they built together didn't belong equally to both of them. And that created tension. There were arguments, frustrations that built over time. Cher began to realize that staying in that situation meant giving up something important: her independence. At the same time, the public image stayed the same. They still performed together, still appeared on television, still acted like everything was fine. But behind that image, things were breaking down. By the early 1970s, the distance between them was clear. Cher wanted more control, more freedom to make her own choices. And eventually, she made a decision that shocked people just as much as her rise to fame. She left. The divorce wasn't simple. It wasn't just emotional, it was financial too. Because most of the money and assets were in Sonny's name, Cher walked away with far less than people expected. For someone who had been part of a major success, she suddenly found herself starting over again. Not completely from zero, but close enough. After the split, the public wasn't sure what would happen next. For years, Cher had been part of a duo. Her identity was tied to that partnership. Without it, people questioned whether she could stand on her own. And at first, it didn't look promising. Her solo career struggled in the beginning. Some projects didn't work. Some performances didn't connect the same way. The momentum she had with Sonny wasn't there anymore. On top of that, there were financial problems. Because of how things were structured before, she didn't have the kind of security people assumed she did. She had fame, but not stability. And that forced her to work even harder. She couldn't rely on past success. She had to rebuild everything: her image, her sound, her place in the industry. This time on her own. It wasn't immediate. There were setbacks. Moments where it seemed like the public might move on. But Cher didn't disappear. She kept working, performing, recording, taking opportunities even when they weren't guaranteed to succeed. And slowly, things started to shift. Her solo music began to find its audience. Her confidence grew stronger, not just on stage, but in how she handled her career. This time, she made more decisions herself. She didn't hand over control the way she had before. People started to see her differently, not just as part of Sonny and Cher, but as an artist who could survive on her own. That shift didn't happen overnight. But once it did, it changed everything. Because now, Cher wasn't just continuing a career. She was rebuilding it from the ground up, with full control this time. By the late 1970s, Cher had already lived through more career shifts than most artists ever experience. Fame, collapse, reinvention. But she wasn't done changing. At a time when many assumed her best years were behind her, Cher made another move that surprised people. She stepped into acting. Seriously this time. Not small appearances. Not guest roles built around her fame. Real acting. At first, the industry didn't take her seriously. To many people, she was still a pop star, a TV personality, someone known for style and attitude more than depth. Hollywood wasn't quick to trust that she could carry complex roles. So she had to prove it. She started with smaller parts, working her way into more demanding roles. She paid attention, learned how film sets worked, took criticism, even when it wasn't fair. And slowly, opinions started to change. Then came the turning point: Moonstruck. In that film, Cher played a role that felt real, grounded, nothing like the larger-than-life image people were used to seeing. And it worked. Her performance didn't just get attention, it earned respect. She won an Academy Award. That moment changed how people saw her permanently. She wasn't just a singer who tried acting. She was an actress. But she didn't stop there. At the same time, she returned to music with a completely new image. Stronger, bolder, more controlled. Hits started coming again. Songs that connected with a new generation, not just the one that remembered her from the 60s. She adapted to changing sounds, changing trends, without losing what made her recognizable. And visually, she pushed boundaries. Fashion choices that stood out. Outfits that people talked about. She didn't follow trends, she created them. By the 1980s and into the 1990s, Cher wasn't just relevant again. She was everywhere. Music, film, television. And this time, it felt different from before. She wasn't part of a duo. She wasn't being managed in the same way. She was in control. Even at the peak of success, things in Cher's personal life were never simple. Behind the public image, there were losses that stayed with her. One of the biggest came in 1998. Sonny Bono died in a skiing accident. For many people, it brought back memories of their early years together. The music, the television show, the partnership that made them famous. But for Cher, it was more complicated than that. Their relationship had ended years earlier. It hadn't been easy. There were unresolved feelings, both good and bad. And yet, when he died, it hit her in a way she didn't fully expect. Because no matter what had happened between them, they had built something together. Something that changed both of their lives. She spoke about him publicly after his death, and for the first time, people saw a different side of her. Less guarded, more open. But that wasn't the only challenge. Family struggles, relationships that didn't last, the pressure of always being in the public eye, it added up over time. Fame doesn't create distance from problems. If anything, it makes them harder to deal with, because everything becomes visible. Every decision, every mistake, every personal moment. And Cher lived with that for decades. There were times she pulled back. Moments where she stepped away from the spotlight, not for a major announcement, but just to breathe. But she always came back. Because performing, creating, staying active, that was part of who she was. Still, the weight of those years didn't disappear. It stayed in the background, even when things looked successful on the surface. By the time Cher reached her 70s, most artists from her era had already stepped away. But she didn't. She kept performing, touring around the world. Long shows, demanding schedules, and not scaled-down versions either. Full productions, high energy, the same level of commitment she had shown for decades. Fans admired it. But behind that consistency, there was a reality that couldn't be ignored. Time was catching up. Performing at that level takes a physical toll. Travel, rehearsals, stage performances that last hours. It's demanding at any age. At 70 plus, it becomes something else entirely. There were signs, even if they weren't obvious at first. Longer breaks between tours, more careful scheduling, small adjustments that most people wouldn't notice unless they were paying close attention. At the same time, the industry around her was changing. New artists, new platforms, a different kind of audience. But Cher didn't try to compete in the same way. She stayed in her lane, focused on what she did best, and fans stayed with her. Still, there's a difference between continuing and sustaining. The energy required to maintain that level doesn't stay the same forever. And after decades of constant work, that pressure builds. Not all at once. Slowly. Physically. Mentally. By the late 70s, the question wasn't whether she could keep going. It was whether she wanted to. Because at that point, continuing wasn't about proving anything. It was about choice. And for the first time in a long time, stepping away started to feel like a real option. When Cher finally shared her goodbye message, it didn't sound dramatic. There were no big words. No long explanation. Just a few sentences that felt carefully chosen. That's what made people pay attention. Because for someone who had spent decades speaking directly, saying exactly what she felt, the simplicity of that message felt intentional. It wasn't rushed. It sounded like something she had been thinking about for a long time. At first, people assumed the obvious. At 79, stepping away from touring, recording, and public life makes sense. It's expected. Most artists don't stay active that long. But if that were the only reason, the reaction wouldn't have been this strong. There was something else behind it. Something she didn't fully explain. Physically, the years had added up. Decades of performing, traveling across continents, long nights, constant schedules, the pressure to show up at the same level every time. That kind of life doesn't slow down easily. Even when the performances look effortless, the preparation behind them is not. Recovery takes longer. Energy doesn't come back the same way. And at a certain point, continuing means pushing through more than just routine exhaustion. It becomes a decision about how much more you're willing to give. But the physical side is only part of it. There's also the emotional weight. Cher spent more than 60 years in the public eye. That means living with attention that never fully turns off. Every move watched. Every statement analyzed. Every moment turned into a headline. At first, that attention builds a career. Over time, it becomes something else. Something constant. And after decades, that kind of exposure changes how you see your own life. There's less space to just exist quietly. Less space to be private. For someone like Cher, who had already experienced every level of success, that constant visibility starts to feel less necessary. She had already reached the highest points. There was nothing left to prove. So the question shifted. Not can I keep going, but why should I? Another part of the answer was control. Earlier in her life, control wasn't always hers. In her relationship with Sonny Bono, decisions were often made for her. Even during her early success, she didn't always have full ownership of her career or finances. Took years to change that. Years to build a position where she could decide when to start something and when to end it. This goodbye wasn't forced. It wasn't caused by a sudden collapse or a public failure. It was chosen. And that matters. Because for someone who spent a long time fighting for independence, choosing the ending is part of that independence. There's also something more personal. Something she didn't directly say, but hinted at in small ways over the years. Fatigue. Not just physical tiredness. A deeper kind of exhaustion that comes from doing the same thing at the same level for most of your life. Even something you love can become heavy when it never stops. Cher didn't lose her ability. She didn't lose her audience. But she reached a point where continuing didn't feel necessary anymore. And that's a different kind of ending. Not driven by decline. Driven by decision. Her final message reflected that. She thanked her fans. Acknowledged the years. Kept it simple. But underneath those words, there was something clear. She was ready to step away on her own terms. After the announcement, the reaction came quickly. Fans posted messages across every platform. Some were supportive. Others were emotional. Many just didn't want to believe it was permanent. Because for so long, Cher had been constant. Different eras. Different styles. Different generations. But she was always there. And now, suddenly, she was saying she wouldn't be in the same way anymore. That shift felt bigger than just one artist stepping back. It felt like the end of something familiar. Other celebrities responded too. People who had worked with her, who had grown up watching her, who saw her as part of the industry's foundation. The respect was clear. Not just for her success, but for how long she sustained it. Few careers last that long without fading. Even fewer stay relevant across so many decades. Cher did. And she did it without following a fixed path. She changed when she needed to. Took risks when it wasn't safe. Walked away from situations that limited her. That's part of what made her different. Her legacy isn't just about songs or films. It's about endurance. About staying visible, active, and in control longer than most people thought possible. And now, her goodbye becomes part of that story too. Because she didn't wait until she had no choice. She didn't let the industry decide for her. She made the decision herself. Quietly. Directly. The same way she had approached so many turning points in her life. For fans, that doesn't make it easier. A goodbye like this doesn't feel temporary. It feels final. But at the same time, everything she built doesn't disappear. The music is still there. The films are still there. The image, the voice, the presence, all of it stays. What changes is her place in the present. No more new tours. No more constant appearances. Just the legacy standing on its own. And maybe that's the point. After decades of constantly moving forward, she chose to stop. Not because she had to, but because she decided it was enough. So, What do you think about her life story and the decision she made at 79? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. We break down the real stories behind the biggest names in the world. No filters, no myths. Until next time, take care and we'll see you in the next video.